With that, I see that we are about a minute past the hour, so we'll probably have some more people joining as we get going, but I'm gonna turn it over to you guys from Blitz. I'm really excited to see what's new and give people some tips on how to get and keep some DSPs.
Thanks, Dustin. Yeah, obviously we want to talk to you about how to get and keep amazing DSPs without blowing the recruiting budget on Indeed, only to keep getting poor applicants that schedule interviews and don't show up anyway. So in the most basic form, your challenge, of course, is to find them, get them, and keep them. And what that may look like, you know, maybe you're fortunate you're getting a lot of candidates, or maybe you're not getting enough, but regardless of the number, you're finding it very hard to find ideal DSPs. You've got this big mix of applicants out there. The orange ones are the desirable, but it's totally mixed up. When you get somebody to apply, again, you're getting a lot of these gray ones who are the undesirable and these orange ones who might be good DSPs, but by the time they get through your screening process and the onboarding, we've heard so many providers say, yeah, we just hired 4 new DSPs, but frankly, 3 of them probably won't last the month, which means at the end of 1 month, you've got 1 DSP who seems pretty good, but that DSP now, because of you're not having enough DSPs to fill everything, they're taking on extra shifts, they're getting burned out. So very often that one good DSP turns into a not so good DSP who may leave after 3, 4, 5 months anyway, in which case you're right back to the start. Now, what I've just described is a linear process, but instead it looks more like this, where it's a vicious cycle. But the truth of the matter is this find, get, keep is missing some really important words, because the challenge for many of you is you really hope to find a good candidate. When you think you do, you get ghosted at the interview or even onboarding and training, and you keep losing them. We've heard this so many times from providers that we've actually branded this the DSP hamster wheel. Now, obviously, what you want is something better than a DSP hamster wheel, and that is what we call our DSP magnet process. And with the DSP magnet process, what happens is when you're changing how you are attracting DSPs, you'll notice from that pool, you now have some of those desirable orange people sort of filtering to the front. The DSP magnet is pulling the right ones and rejecting or repelling the wrong ones. And when you get people to apply, you now have a lot more viable candidates. You'll still have a few mixed in that aren't ideal, but that's fine. When you do hire somebody, now you have a lot more people are coming on board. So even after you get some who may drop out because they find the work isn't what they expected, you still end up with 3 ideal DSPs. So what we want to focus on first is how to find them. Scott?
So as Craig mentioned, we've got the DSP magnet approach, and a magnet does 3 things. It attracts the right things, pushes away the wrong things, and then holds on to the right things. So we want to use that, to build our DSP magnet, use that philosophy. So obviously we want to attract more of the right people. So to do that, we start by creating a DSP cloning machine. Now, I wish I had a real cloning machine for you. Obviously that doesn't exist, sadly, but this philosophy can be transformational. So we're all person-centered here. You fundamentally understand person-centered philosophy of care. We want to extend that, and that is the foundation of creating your own DSP cloning machine. Because when we want to attract more of the right people, that requires us to get clear on your ideal DSP. So imagine for a moment that I tell you, hey, Amazon has the best news possible for all of you today. Cloning machine, free prime shipping, staffing crisis solved tomorrow morning when it shows up at your doorstep. Who would you clone? Use that as your foundation. Those incredible people that you would love to clone, those are the people that you want to think of when you create your recruiting materials. So let's look at how this influences the process. We want to be person-centered. Think of that person that you want to attract, and then turn the whole application process into a magnet. Is your job post on Indeed going to attract or repel your ideal person? Is it filled with like 40 bullet points of rules, requirements, and regulations? And I get that it's important, but is that really going to attract the right person for the job? Then look at your online application. We've often heard from providers that our ideal person is incredible, but he's not the best at paperwork. Well, if you've got an online application on your website that has 150 form fields or an 18-page PDF download to apply, you're not playing to his strengths. It's pushing that ideal person away. So look at each step of your application process and hiring to evaluate, is this going to attract this person or is it going to push them away? Obviously, we want to turn the whole process into a magnet to help pull that person along. And when we do this, we have the privilege still of working with Brandy at the Licking County Board of Developmental Disabilities here in Ohio. And she leads the charge on recruiting incredible DSPs there. And she was trying anything and everything, just like you, Indeed, all these other options, newspapers, every different area where she could try and recruit, she was trying it. And she called it the spaghetti approach. And she said she felt like she was throwing things at a wall to see what sticks. And when we started from the same point with her by getting clear on the DSP she would clone and use that, she ended up getting more applicants than she knew what to do with, and is getting incredible DSPs. And we're going to talk about that more momentarily. So we find the great people by getting clear on who we want to attract. Then obviously, as we pull them toward us and we get the applications, we want to get them. We don't want to get ghosted anymore. So how many times have you been ghosted? I mean, have you been ghosted more than 5 times? Can people put this in chat? I'm guessing we've all experienced more than our fair share of ghosting. Feel free to put that into chat. I know it's happening a lot, and please don't feel bad. It's happening to everyone, and it's happening so often, in fact, that Indeed did a survey of businesses across industries. Yeah, Lenan, thanks for the candor. I can't even count, definitely. Yeah, and you're not alone. Indeed did a survey of businesses across industries, and 83% of survey respondents said that they've been ghosted. And frankly, I think the other 17% are just flat out lying. It's happening to everyone. So what do we do about this if it's happening to everyone? We want to create an anti-ghosting system. Now, to be clear, I want to break this down because there are 2 components to this. The first part is anti-ghosting. We don't want to get ghosted anymore. So we want to think about how we can prevent that. And then secondly, the system is the second half of this. We want to make it easy so that this can just happen, so that we're not constantly expending tons of energy, because I know getting ghosted right now is exhausting. It's frustrating, it's draining, it's demoralizing. We want to prevent ghosting, and we want to make it easy, just run as a system that happens practically automatically. So first part, ghosting. What causes ghosting? There are lots of different causes, and honestly, we all fill in the blanks. We try and complete the story. We don't know why somebody ghosts us. And we make up tons of stories like, you know what, they're lazy. They wouldn't have been a good employee. They did me a favor. It wouldn't have worked out. And sometimes, yeah, that is undoubtedly true. But there are other times where emergencies come up, unexpected things. We've heard from some candidates that, you know, just some days you get cold feet about going out into the world because of COVID. There are other things at play here. And sometimes some organizations don't set themselves up for success. And honestly, a lot of ghosting is being driven by the fact that candidates, this is a different perspective for you, candidates feel ghosted by employers because I know you're being diligent about getting back to people. However, other employers are not. In other industries, it's taking 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 3 months for them to respond to people that are applying for jobs. So what does it lead to? Just applicants have to play the numbers game. They start applying for every job because they're getting ghosted by so many employers. They feel it's fair to ghost employers. So let's look at the sample hiring process here, because this is where ghosting is going on. Yours might look something like this, might have some more steps or a different order, but we have these different stages, the application, the phone screen, in-person site visit, background checks, and then ultimately hiring the person. And we've got all those steps that forwards and backwards, you've done hundreds of times, and you have to check certain boxes and go through them. And naturally, that's where you devote your attention. But that's not where ghosting happens. It's really easy to miss out on it because it happens in between those major events where you devote your attention. Those arrows, those are days and sometimes even weeks passing between events where the candidate is living their life. Challenges are coming up. They're getting ghosted by other employers. Childcare falls through, snow day, all these different things come up. And life is happening, and that's why ghosting is happening. The more time that passes in between those, the less communication you have with them in between those, the more likely it is that they will ghost. Working through this process again with Brandy, we talked about ghosting with her, and she said, people don't ghost me. I don't let them. Out of my last 17 DSP applicants, only 2 people ghosted. I called both, I talked to one, and never heard from the other. And this is what I would love to see all of you have happen, because no matter what we do, there will always be 1 or 2 people that are just going to ghost despite our best efforts. And we can't let them get to us, but we can control and impact so much of it. So wouldn't you love to have 15 out of 17 applicants not ghost you and then get in touch with that one? And the one that ghosted initially that talked to Brandy said she just decided to take another job. So we've talked about find them, talked about get them. Obviously now, once you've got them, you want to keep them around long term. So let's dive into that. The foundational step to keeping them is to think about a DSP ISP. I know we need more acronyms in this field. You all fundamentally understand what an ISP is, and we're going to make this simple for you because I know you don't need more things to do. So let's dive into this. It's not as involved as the ISP that you create for the people that you serve and support. It doesn't have to be multi-pages filled with jargon. We want to start simple and we can get fancy later if you need to. So, second, we're not advocating to create this for each and every new DSP that comes in because I know that would consume way too much time, and I know that you don't have enough time in your days as is. So this also can show you how to overcome this challenge of I don't have time, because I know your schedule is packed to the max. This is focused on being simple and practical, not adding more to your plate, but just adjusting things that you're already doing and improving them. When taking this approach, Angie, who's Brandy's boss, shared these incredible stats with us. She said that as a result of the guidance and using this process, that turnover improved for the providers in their area from 68.5% to 28% for the people that Brandy was engaging in using this DSP ISP approach. And retention for the people that Brandy was 100% in charge of recruiting, getting them to stick around for at least 6 months, was 83% for the people that she recruited. Those are incredible results and things that I know that you can accomplish. So to quickly recap, we want to help you escape the DSP hamster wheel. It's no fun being on it. It's exhausting. It's tiring. So the starting point, you'll want to get clear on your ideal DSP. That's the DSP cloning machine. Get clear on that person and turn your whole application process into a magnet to pull that person along. Secondly, you want to create an anti-ghosting system. You want that communication regularly with candidates throughout the process to nurture them so that they're not just sitting there wondering what's going on, thinking that maybe, nobody's going to get back to them and making a decision to go somewhere else. Third, we want to start by keeping them with the DSP ISP. You've got the perfect skills. You know how to build skills in people, help them toward goals, overcome challenges. Use that same thinking with DSPs because they have plenty of challenges in their personal life. If they've never been a DSP before, it's certainly hard to do it for the first time. There's a lot of information to take in, and you've got the perfect skill set to help them do those things and become a great DSP. So that's the core overview. When you do those things, you're going to start to see this DSP magnet effect, pulling more of the right people out of the pool of candidates toward you, getting more people to choose from, pulling more of them along and hiring more of the right people and ultimately keeping them. That's the DSP magnet. It attracts the right people, it holds on to them and pushes away people that aren't a fit. So I know we've covered a lot really quickly here, and you undoubtedly have questions, and we're happy to talk through those. But this sounds promising, sounds exciting. Now, how do you actually go do this? So an easy next step, if you're interested, is we are hosting a retention and culture workshop on Thursday, March 25th from 10 a.m. Eastern to 1:30 p.m. in the afternoon. And this is for executives, HR directors, and orientation and training supervisors. Anybody who has influence over that onboarding, training, retention process and affects the culture of the organization at a high level. If you want to register to this, you'll want to go to dspmagnet.com/register. And the registration for that is $350 normally, but right now Craig and I are running an early bird special. If you register for the first ticket, it'll be $300 for the first one, and there's a discount if you want to bring other people from your organization. Now, if what we were talking about with ghosting sounds interesting and appealing and is a challenge that you're facing right now, Craig and I are hosting a workshop just focused on that one thing. Anti-ghosting is on Thursday, February 25th from 9 in the morning Eastern to 10:30, just an hour and a half. These workshops, regardless of workshop, all of these are designed to be energizing and engaging. It's not me and Craig being talking heads like we are currently. We'll do about like 5 minutes of presentation, then do individual exercises, talk as a group, do small group exercises, really mix things up. You'll get to talk and collaborate with your peers from around the country. The last workshop we did a couple weeks ago, we had providers from like 9 different states around the country. Again, you can sign up for this on our website, dspmagnet.com/register. This workshop is $100 for the first ticket. Additional people from your organization are $85 each.
Yeah, that one's all the way at the bottom of that register page.
So we've got those 2 workshops, February 25th and March 25th, anti-ghosting and retention and culture. And in April, we'll be doing a recruiting and ghosting workshop later.
All of our workshops too, you come away with actions you can take right away. So it's not something where, oh, gee, we have to buy a whole bunch of stuff or we have to do this or it's a whole big program. These are things you come away with, things you can do quickly and easily to make progress.
So guys, we did have a couple of questions.
Perfect.
One was centered around, it appears that this person thinks that you guys are posting these jobs for people and collecting applicants for them. You are basically teaching people the tools and the right ways to attract people, keep them, and okay.
Yeah, it's the difference between giving somebody a fish dinner or teaching them how to fish. We're here to help providers learn how to fish on their own so they can have their own success.
And you said providers, but a couple of the quotes that you gave, and this is another question from the chat, was that some of them were from the county board. And for those of you outside of Ohio, the county boards do service coordination in Ohio.
Yeah, and the county board, yeah. So I saw Star asked about, because I think Star said earlier she's in Ohio. That's the Licking County Board of Developmental Disabilities. They're just east of Columbus. They're doing a lot of really innovative things there, and Brandy is in charge of recruiting candidates and helping with some of the screening and then getting them out to the providers. For anyone not in Ohio, historically, Ohio has had a very strong county board system. So some of the county boards here are doing their best to help providers out with the workforce crisis.
And we have another question from, it says, how applicable are these techniques in very rural settings where Indeed doesn't even reach and they don't have a large pool on our best day?
Yeah. So it works in rural settings as well. Yeah, I know you're starting with a smaller pool, and it sounds kind of counterintuitive and crazy and makes some people a little worried when we say, hey, get focused on that ideal person. And you're like, wait a minute, I need more people. And you're telling me to like just focus on one person. But to be clear here, what works in maybe like your day program setting, that might be one profile versus somebody who's working at a group home on third shift. There can be those different profiles, different ideal DSPs that you're working to attract. And suddenly when you focus on trying to attract one person, it will bring like-minded people toward you, and suddenly you find more opportunities and open up more chances to get the people that you need. And there are different approaches, different platforms that work in rural settings, urban, suburban. And I mean, even within those areas, I've seen some providers rave about a particular platform and others go, yeah, it's a waste of money. We've gotten no results from it.
And we have worked with rural settings before very successfully. The other thing too, we mentioned Licking County Board. We're also, in fact, we came out just an hour ago, we came out of a workshop with some of their providers. And one of the tools we were teaching, one of the techniques was what we call a DSP talent pipeline. And that would work very well in a rural setting because we talk about there are other people who can help recruit for you. So we talk about how you can approach them and make this easy so it becomes a very easy process for you. You put in a little bit upfront investment as far as sweat equity, but after that, it can really help drive some talented people to your organization.
Interesting. I started in this field as a DSP, and I was actually recruited in quotes, right, by a friend who had started working for this provider agency. And we ended up having a group of us that were kind of all somewhat connected, all attending school, going to Purdue, and we were able to do some really cool things. And it was just interesting that you say that, because that's how I ended up in this field, with somebody else that had the right profile attracted me to it.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that's a big opportunity, because when we talk to providers around the country and ask, what are your best sources of applicants? I hear two answers over and over: Indeed and word of mouth referrals. So you had, a referral, something brought you in. And that's one of the top two sources. But often when we ask providers like, okay, well, how much are you investing in that? How often are you asking for referrals? I kind of get a very guilty, like, not as much as we should be. Oh, we've got a form on the website or outside the HR office. And it's like, well, this is one of your top two best sources of people. What would happen if we invested a little more energy and effort into that? I'm sure we could squeeze more out of that.
Thanks again, guys. For those of you that are on, we do have some upcoming tech huddles on the website, and more that will be there very soon. So check back. We actually just scheduled a workshop related to living healthy technologies. It's going to be on April 23rd. So go to the website, check that out. Registration will be opening soon. So again, guys, thank you very much. Good stuff you're doing to help people, providers, get some good folks. Thank
you, Dustin. We appreciate it.
And I just put our email in chat. We're always happy to talk with a provider. I know questions often pop up, the instant you sign off a webinar. So yeah, always happy to help.
Yeah, that email goes to us both. So one of us will answer.
And that is, for those of you that are watching the recording later on, that is info@blitzcreative.com.
Thanks, Dustin. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.